that's looking good. Alright, all that's posted, so we should be good to go. Hello everyone, Artemu the Violet Wizard here, and today we're continuing the Pokémon FireRed Nuzlocke. Last time we got started on our journey and managed to make it all the way to Pewter City. But we're starting things off here not in Pewter, as we're actually back in Viridian City to take care of one last bit of unfinished business in this area. So before we begin this session, I want to quickly show off the team that we currently have here. So we managed to get ourselves a nice little squad of Pokemon in the last session, and very excited to get to use some more of these guys. First, of course, we have our starter, Bulbo. How's it going, man? Dude, this team is entirely chicks and not one of them is into me. This is hell! And we got Khalifa. Come on, let's get to the gym already. I want to crack some skulls. Okay, tone it down. We'll get there. Of course, we have Rosie. Hi! She's definitely a bit more... definitely a lot more agreeable than some of our other team members. I heard that. And then, of course, we have Whiskers, our little Rattata. Hi. Right, so things are looking pretty good with the team so far. And in between sessions, I felt that it would be appropriate to draw some art of our team. And just want to quickly show off this little sketch that I made here. Just really like this drawing of all of our Pokemon right now. Definitely get a good glimpse into their personalities here. Also, I drew Barbie, even though we're not going to be using her in this run, because why not? It's one of our early catches in this run, so might as well draw them. So I'm not going to be drawing every Pokemon I catch during this Nuzlocke run, just the ones that I feel are the most relevant to things that are going on. So I'll definitely be excited to share some more of the bits of artwork I do for this in the future. Alright. So, to start off this session, we want to actually head back to Route 22, where we first caught Khalifa. As this area has one thing we're able to do here that is a bit of a timely event. We only have this brief moment before challenging the Pewter Gym to actually have this event happen. So we venture further into this route. Look who it is. Hey, Hayden, you're up to the Pokemon League. Forget about it. You probably don't have any badges, do you? The guard won't let you through without them. By the way, did your Pokemon get any stronger? Yeah, a little bit. We actually did a bit of grinding in between sessions, so our team is looking very strong for the upcoming gym. Alright, Rival's leading with a level 9 Pidgey. That's why I recommended not doing this until a bit later. Especially if you're doing a Nuzlocke run. Okay, we could have a pretty decent time with this Pidgey, but let's go for a Tail Whip and lower its defense a little bit just so that we can have an easier time facing this thing. Okay, I'll do my best. Alright, go for the quick attack. It's guaranteed to land first over any other attack we have. The sand attack is a little bit of trouble, but we can always switch to Rosie to counter that. Let's go for another quick attack. Ah! Okay, just whiffed it, but we should be fine here. Alright, Whiskers managed to get it.
Ugh, that was scary.
And our next opponent here is, of course, Charmander. This thing could give us some trouble. Let's go for another Tail Whip to weaken this thing a little bit, and then we'll probably switch out to either Rosie or Khalifa. Actually, Khalifa would probably be the best for this. She is easily the best attacker we have here.
Okay, I'll go now.
Alright, let's do this!
Alright, you lizard, I've been training for a good fight. So take this!
Yep, Khalifa learned Karate Chop in between sessions. That is a really good fighting type attack by this point in the game. So Khalifa's going to be really good against a lot of Pokemon we'll be facing here.
Nah, you just lucked out. Luck had nothing to do with it, punk. I heard the Pokemon League's crawling with tough trainers. I have to figure out how to get past them. You should quit dawdling and get a move on.
And just he's gonna run away like the bitch he is. We can actually go a little bit farther into Route 22 here. There's not much to really see, but if we go up here... So this is the entrance that will eventually lead us to the Pokemon League. But we cannot go any further until we acquire the gym badges that we're able to acquire all throughout the Kanto region. So we definitely got a lot of work we gotta do here. Our ultimate goal will of course be to challenge the Pokemon League. But that is going to have to wait because we got a lot, and I mean a lot, to do before we can do that. Alright, but our team managed to do pretty well against our rival. Pretty well, we frickin' smoked him. Yes, I suppose that is an accurate assessment of events. So with our team all trained up, we should be good to take on the Pewter City Gym. I'm really excited for this one. Especially with the team we've been building in just recently here. I feel like we're going to have a pretty good time against the gym leader, as well as some of the challenges that we're going to be facing afterwards. I want to make sure that everyone on our team was adequately leveled for some of the challenges we'll be facing in this session. Just because I don't want to do too much grinding in this session compared to how things went in the previous one. So we should have plenty of time to advance as far as I want to. We might actually manage to get to the next main city in this game before the end of this one. We also have a very sizable dungeon that we have to get through before we can manage to get that. And we still need to get through Viridian Forest once again. It's going to be so good when we eventually gain the ability to fly, that we can just freely travel to any town we have previously visited. It's so good. Something I really like about the more modern Pokemon games is that they give you the ability to fast travel between important landmarks really early on in those games. So it's always like very convenient to just whisk yourself to whatever destination you need for your current objective. That is definitely something I really like about the newer games. Just in general, I feel there's a lot of good quality of life elements in the newer games. Not that it makes these older games bad, they just have different... they're just constructed in a different manner, you know? So Whiskers managed to get a level up from that battle, has now learned Hyper Fang.
I think that might have gotten a bit stronger.
Yes, that will definitely be good for us, because that is an 80 base power attack. Coming from a Rattata, that is going to hurt a lot. It's just such an excellent attack by this point in the game. It is a little inaccurate, but trust me, this is going to be a good attack. It's going to be very useful going forward. And, yep, we can have Bulbo take the lead here, because he's going to be integral to what we're going to be doing in this session here. So let's head up to Route 2, and we are already out of here. Alright, so we only got to briefly see Pewter City in the last session, so I want to quickly go around here, just Talk to as many people as we can so we can find out what we're able to do here. Like I said in the previous session, anytime you reach a new destination, talk to as many people as you can. Ooh, when Jigglypuff sings, Pokemon get drowsy. Me too. Oh, that's a good song. What were we doing? Oh, right, Pokemon. What? Team Rocket's out Mount Moon? Huh? I'm on the phone. Scram. I smell foreshadowing.
I really want a Pikachu, so I'm trading my Clefairy for one.
Ooh, that's nice. I'm trading Pokemon with that kid there. I had 2 Pikachu, so I figured I might as well trade one. So all these instances, you can actually see NPCs actually playing with Game Boy Advances, and they're trading Pokemon between each other. It's pretty cute.
Hi, glad to meet you. That's unfriendly of you. How about saying hi back? So come on, tell me about yourself. I'd love to hear your profile.
Tell me something good about yourself. What's your profile? So this is more of a multiplayer function. We're not going to be doing anything with that, so we're just going to leave you alone. And let's see what we're able to do around here. There's quite a few places we can see here in Pewter compared to the other areas we explored, so there'll be a lot to see. Pokemon learn new techniques as they grow. Some moves must be taught to them by people.
A Pokemon becomes easier to catch if it has a status problem. Sleep, poison, burn, or paralysis, theirs are all effective. But catching Pokemon's never a sure thing.
That it is, especially when you go up against the legendary Pokemon, because those can take a long time to try and catch. Psst, do you know what I'm doing? No. I'm spraying Repel to keep wild Pokemon out of my garden. Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. So Repel's a pretty useful item if you're just looking to progress through an area without having to deal with wild encounters. So Repel will prevent wild Pokemon that are lower level than whichever Pokemon is at the front of your party from being able to be encountered, which is quite useful. Did you check out the museum? No? Really? You absolutely have to go! And this guy's kind of dragging me away right now. This is it, the museum. You have to pay to get in, but it's worth it. See you around. Yeah, we'll definitely want to check this out in a little bit. So I quite like museums myself. It's certainly been a long time since I visited one, but I don't know, it's always just fun to learn about a lot of ancient stuff and also being able to learn about different cultures and time periods. It's always very fascinating. I've always enjoyed that. Nidoran, sit! Ow! Ow! Our Pokemon's an outsider, so it's finicky and hard to handle. An outsider's a Pokemon you get in a trade. It grows fast, but it may ignore an unskilled trainer in battle. If only we had some badges. Yeah, that's an interesting mechanic with this series. So, you're able to freely trade Pokemon between different players, and then those Pokemon have an added bonus where if they are currently being used by someone who is not the trainer that caught them, the Pokemon will receive double the experience points in battle. But because they grow faster, it also makes them harder to control. So you need to earn gym badges to be able to have the Pokemon actually listen to your commands. It's quite interesting. Good things can happen if you raise Pokemon diligently. Even the weak ones can surprise you if you don't give up on them. A shady old guy sucked me into buying this weird fish Pokemon. It's totally weak and it costs $500. Wow, that sucks. Hi there, may I help you? Got ourselves another store here. It's a good idea to check out every store when you come to a new town, as the different stores throughout the region have different inventory. So, definitely want to watch out for that. Probably not a good idea to buy Pokeballs here. We only have so much money. It's got a good supply of potions. Just trying to look at our current supplies and think about what will be useful to us. We'll buy a few Awakenings. Sleep is always a very tricky condition to deal with because it locks your Pokemon out of being able to act for a couple turns, and that can be nasty. You can also get Escape Rope, which is an item that can quickly take you out of a dungeon, but we don't need to worry about that. And Repels, which can prevent weaker wild Pokemon from being able to attack you. So there was some decent stuff we were able to pick up there. Always a good idea to check out what you have in your inventory any chance you get, especially when you're doing a challenge run. Because if you don't have a good supply of items, that can really mess you up in certain battles if you're not prepared for them. With that said, let's head into the museum. Yes, it's $50 for a child's ticket. Would you like to come in? Sure thing. Right, $50, thank you. So I believe the main currency in the Pokemon series is more closer to yen than, like, American dollars. So it's actually a lot cheaper for whatever items that you're grabbing. Aerodactyl Fossil, a primitive and rare Pokemon. Always love the custom sprites they do for the fossils here. It's always such a good detail. I should be grateful for my long life. Never did I think I'd get to see the bones of a dragon. Well, dragon adjacent, but you know. Kabutops Fossil, a primitive and rare Pokemon. Oh man, let me tell you, I'd love to have one of those things on my team. Very nice.
I want a Pikachu. It's so cute. I asked my daddy to catch me one.
Good luck, those things are really rare in the forest. Yeah, a Pikachu soon, I promise. Space Shuttle.
This month we're running a space exhibit.
So the lower floor is about ancient fossil Pokemon, while the upper floor is about space exploration. Kinda cool. Moonstone, huh? What's so special about it? Looks like an ordinary rock to me. A meteorite that fell on Mount Moon. It's thought to be a moonstone. July 20th, 1969. Humankind first set foot on the moon that day. I bought a color TV just so I could watch that news.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that the older games,
they reference a lot of real-world events and places in a lot of areas. They typically don't do that in the more modern games, where they try to have it feel more like a self-contained world that is separate from ours. But you know, I do like the little references. So we managed to find a Pokeball just by examining that spot there. Sometimes an item will be in an area, but it will not be visible, so definitely check around if you see a suspicious-looking area.
Clefairy came from the moon. That's what the rumor is. They appeared after moonstones fell on Mount Moon.
So that implies that the moon is home to fairies. Interesting. Pewter City Pokemon Gym leader Brock, the rock-solid Pokemon trainer. Oh, he's rock solid, alright. Alright, so it's time to take on our first gym. Hiya! Do you want to dream big? Do you dare to dream of becoming the Pokemon champ? I'm no trainer, but I can advise you on how to win. Let me take you to the top. Sure thing. Alright, let's get happening. The first Pokemon out in a match is at the left of the Pokemon list. By changing the order of Pokemon, you may gain an advantage. Try different orders to suit your opponent's party. Totally not going to talk about what this actual gym is about. You can see here, if we check these statues, it shows which trainers have actually beaten the gym, and our rival got here first. Okay. So whenever you're in a Pokemon gym, typically, you'll want to battle as many trainers in here as you can.
Stop right there, kid. You're 10,000 light years from facing Brock.
I think your math's a little off there, my dude. So Camper Liam here is going to be leading off with a Geodude. So this gym here, the Pewter Gym, specializes in rock-type Pokemon. So this area is honestly pretty easy if you pick Bulbasaur or Squirtle, because they are really effective against the Pokemon here, as Bulbo is demonstrating right now. But yeah, if you pick Charmander, you're probably going to struggle here. I highly recommend picking up a Mankey if you picked Charmander, which is what I did back in my old Leaf Green streams. So that will give you a pretty easy time here in this gym. And with that, managed to take care of the Sandshrew, and Bulbo gets a level 13. Oh yeah!
Darn! Light years isn't time, it measures distance!
By being that trainer, we get a little bit of money. But more importantly, we are now ready to face the actual gym leader. So for this battle, we are going to be leading with Khalifa instead of Bulbo, cause, you know, I'm just like that. Oh, come on, man, I was made for this gym. Yeah, but back when we Nuzlocked Blue, I used a U for this gym and you totally dominated it. Yeah, cause I'm awesome. Let's just give Khalifa some time in the spotlight, okay? Then you can have the next gym coming up. What gym was that again? The water gym? Okay, yeah, I can take that. Alright, glad we're in agreement. Alright, let us do this. So, you're here. I'm Brock. I'm Pewter's gym leader. My rock-hard willpower is evident even in my Pokemon. My Pokemon are all rock-hard and of true grit determination. That's right, my Pokemon are all the rock type. Haha, you're gonna challenge me knowing you'll lose? That's the trainer's honor that compels you to challenge me. Fine then, show me your best. Time to face off the gym leader of Pewter City, Brock. I always really like Brock, especially because of the anime. He's just such a fun character in that. I really like him. Yeah, he's a total sex pest, but whatever. Alright, so this one should be pretty easy for us here. Fighting type attacks are super effective against rocks, so Khalifa, time to go all out. Ah, yeah! Take this! Alright, managed to get it to below half, so it'll be pretty good here. Okay. So nasty critical hit there, but we should be good. Just get another karate chop in. Ugh. I just let down my guard a bit, but I'm fine. Okay. Now, normally I would just let Khalifa take on this next Pokemon, but she is hurting a little bit. So let's switch over to Bulbo. Alright. Yeah. This gym is going to be a little bit tougher than last time that we faced this guy. So Onix here actually has a rock-type attack. It has Rock Tomb, which not only does damage, but can also lower the opponent's speed, which is not very helpful. Alright, Bulbo, let's go for broke. Alright. Take that! Yeah! And just like that, Onix goes down. Sure looks pretty intimidating, be a giant rock snake and all that, but it's really not all that bad. I took you for granted, and so I lost. As proof of your victory, I confer on you this, the official Pokemon League Boulder Badge. Okay, we took a bit of a beating in that fight, but we managed to come out on top. Just having the Boulder Badge makes your Pokemon more powerful. It also enables the use of the move Flash outside of battle. Of course, a Pokemon must know the move Flash to use it. We'll definitely want to remember that for later. Wait, take this with you. We get TM39. A TM, technical machine, contains a technique for Pokemon. Using a TM teaches the move it contains to a Pokemon. A TM's good for only one use, so when you use one, pick the Pokemon carefully. Anyways, TM39 contains Rock Tomb. It hurls boulders at the foe and lowers its speed. So that is definitely good to know for later. Except you're able to receive technical machines, TMs for short, from a variety of different methods, either receiving them from NPCs or just finding them on the field. And there's also some places where you can actually buy TMs. They are definitely very helpful, being able to teach your Pokemon new techniques that they wouldn't normally be able to receive. But since this is the older games, TMs are limited in use. So once we use one, it's gone forever. So in this instance, we want to be very careful about which Pokemon we teach this attack to. There's a couple Pokemon coming up that this would be really useful for, so I'm gonna wait a little while before we teach that to anyone. But yeah, that was a pretty good battle, all things considered. Khalifa did pretty well against that Geodude, and then Bulbo coming in to finish off the Onix. We did pretty well. This team has some good coordination going on. And hopefully as we go forward, things are going to be even better for us. Yeah, they better. Alright, before we go forward, I do want to try and buy a couple more items. Just so I know that we're going to be safe on the road ahead. So let's buy... Yeah, let's just spend all our money on potions right now, because I don't really need to worry about any other thing here. Could be nice to buy some more Pokeballs, but we don't need to worry too much about those, considering the next areas we're coming up on. Alright, so now that we've done everything we need here in Pewter, it's time to move on.
Oh, Hayden! I'm glad I caught up to you. I'm Professor Oak's aide. I've been asked to deliver this, so here you go.
And we receive running shoes from the aide.
Press the B button to run, but only when there's room to run. Well, must be going back to the lab. Bye-bye!
So, normally, before you face Brock, there's an NPC here who would block access to the next area until after you manage to get the Boulder Badge. So, now that we have dealt with that, we are now freely able to progress onward. Also, the letter attached. Dear Hayden, here's a pair of running shoes for my beloved challenger. Remember, I'll always cheer for you. Don't ever give up. From Mom. Aw, that's nice. But yeah, now we are finally able to run, increasing our movement speed and making things a lot easier for us to traverse this region. There are some other quirks to running that we'll eventually see, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But anyway, we're moving on to Route 3. So this area has a lot of battles for us to do, so we're definitely going to be training up our team here.
Excuse me, you looked at me, didn't you?
I am clearly facing 90 degrees away from you, Janice. And you got yourself a Pidgey. I also got a Pidgey, but mine is obviously going to be stronger. Alright, Rosie, we're going to go for the Gust.
You got it!
So, in the training that I did in between sessions, Rosie managed to acquire Gust. This is a pretty simple flying type attack that can deal damage to opponents. It's going to be pretty useful when we run into some bug type trainers in this area. Because, yep, we're still not done with facing the low level bugs. Just gonna let Rosie focus on these guys at the moment. And while we're in this battle, I thought I would talk a little bit about, well, just some things to keep in mind when doing Nuzlocke runs in this game, because there are a few aspects of the older games that the newer games don't have to worry about.
You're mean!
You're the one who challenged me to a battle. What are you talking about?
Hey, I saw you in Viridian Forest!
Did you, though? Bugcatcher Colton. I don't remember fighting you. But anyway, like I said before, there are some things to consider when you're Nuzlocking the older games compared to the newer ones. For one, in this game, there is no physical special split. So, what I'm trying to say here is the offensive stat that your Pokemon's attacks will use for calculating damage are dependent on what type that the move is in these older games. So a normal or a flying type attack would use the Pokemon's physical attack stat, whereas a fire or water type attack would use the Pokemon's special attack stat. Definitely something to consider whenever you're playing these games. Just making sure that you know which types and which types of moves are going to be the most effective on the Pokemon you're currently using. Because otherwise, that could lead to some trouble. Alright, Rosie, I know you're poisoned right now, but you should be able to handle this last Caterpie.
Ugh, I'll try to tough it out.
There we go. Very good work.
You beat me again!
Alright, so definitely want to heal you after that one. Definitely took a bit of a beating. We could always just run back to the Pokemon Center, but I don't want to do that right now. Mainly just want to focus on clearing out this route of the trainers here. Khalifa, you can take point for this next one.
Hi, I like shorts. They're delightfully comfy and easy to wear.
So this specific NPC starts a running joke from the series of having an NPC who would talk about shorts and how comfy they are. I believe in one of the games that there is a girl who comments on skirts very much like this kid. So that's pretty fun. Also, I'm pretty sure in the Japanese translation, these trainers, instead of being called youngsters, are called shorts kid. So, you know, that's pretty funny. We've got ourselves an Ekans here. So that can give us a little bit of trouble, because this thing has Intimidate. Intimidate's easily one of the best abilities you can get on a Pokemon, especially in this point, as Intimidate will lower the attack of the opposing Pokemon when the Intimidate Pokemon is switched into the battle. So yeah, that's obviously really good. Looking for a helpful member of your team, an Intimidator is obviously a good pick here. Even if some of them, like the Ekans here, aren't really the best when it comes to doing damage. As we just demonstrated there. I don't believe it! Believe it, kid. You lost. Alright, so I think the next trainer coming up is going to be another bug trainer, so... Yep, so Rosie will take this one. Are you a trainer? Let's get with it right away! Yeah, whatever you say, kid. So this next route, we're definitely going to want to just focus on training up the team here. So, with all these battles going on, what are some other stuff that we can talk about? So in the last session, I did mention my history with the Nuzlocke challenge, and how I first came across that. But on this channel specifically, I don't think I talked about my whole history of when I first got into Pokemon itself. Yeah, I've definitely been into Pokemon for a long time. It's like ever since the Generation 1 days. It's actually pretty funny when I first really got into it, because I saw the commercials for Pokemon, obviously, but didn't really get too captured into the hype for it until a bit later. So I was at a birthday party or something when I was really young, and the TV was actually playing some episodes of Pokemon at the time. And it was specifically the episode where Ash entered a fighting-type Pokemon tournament with his Primate, and then immediately afterward was the episode where they were dealing with Magnemite and Grimer. And yeah, just watching those episodes, and sadly, it started to click with me that, oh, that's actually kind of good. And so obviously wanted to experience more of the series. And eventually, my mother got my brothers and I a copy of Pokemon Red to share. And there's some pretty fun times going through that the first time. So one funny thing with our first run we did, like the earliest thing I can remember about our team is that we picked Squirtle as our starter Pokemon, and then we didn't catch any more Pokemon until a bit later on, which is kind of weird. But you know, I feel like most people when they first start these games, they easily gravitate to their starters, you know. But yeah, ever since then, I've just been totally fixated on this series. Like, I love Pokemon so much. Even after all these years, I just have so much enjoyment playing through these games. And even if some of the newer games, they tend to have a couple aspects about them that are not really the best. Like, a lot of the technical issues with some of the more recent games have been blatantly obvious, but I still really enjoy those games for what they presented, and I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun with the new game that's going to be coming out soon, which is Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm really excited for that one, but we do have to wait like most of a year for it to finally come out, but I'm going to be excited when it comes out. I've just got ourselves a Rattata on Rattata battle. Whisker should be easily able to handle this one. Yep, just one shot with Hyper Fang. What'd I tell you? Rattata may look weak, but it is surprisingly powerful this early on. Alright, next up is Nidoran. So that is a poison-type Pokemon, much like Ekans, which we saw before. And, yeah, that one has Poison Point. So yeah, some abilities are definitely going to affect you negatively in a lot of ways. Namely, a Poison Point Pokemon, if you hit it with a physical attack, then your Pokemon has a chance of being poisoned, like what just happened with Whiskers there. Be nice! You're the one who poisoned my Pokemon! You be nice! Alright, this is an easy fix, just need to give the antidote to Whiskers. Thank you. Alright, what are we looking here? So I think the next trainer is going to be a... Yep, it's going to be a bug catcher. So let's switch on over to Rosie for this one. Alright, see what we can do. Now, battle you with the Pokemon I just caught. If the ones you just caught, they're not going to be that strong, my dude. So yeah, another thing to consider with training your Pokemon in Nuzlocke runs to get them prepared for the challenges ahead. So there are special values that you can increase with your Pokemon to make them have higher stats. And that could really help you out in a number of different situations. I'm of course talking about effort values. So when you defeat a Pokemon in a battle, depending on the species of Pokemon you're facing, they will give special points to the Pokemon that managed to defeat them. And when your Pokemon manages to accrue enough of these effort values, then their stats will receive a bonus when they level up. So obviously training against very specific Pokemon to help min-max your Pokemon's stat growth can be really nice in a Nuzlocke run. It's not something to really focus on, because obviously getting your levels up should obviously take precedence, as that's one of the most important aspects of leveling up and training your Pokemon. But getting your effort values up, that's also a pretty decent way of doing things here. Okay, considering what we're going to see here, I'm going to switch Whiskers into the front here, because we have a new patch of grass here on Route 3, which means a new Pokemon to catch. Ah, this is a familiar face from my original Nuzlocke here. It's got ourselves a Spearow. This one could definitely be pretty nice. It's a flying type much like Pidgey, though it leans a bit more into being an offensive attacker compared to Pidgey. Alright, our weakest attack with Whiskers is going to be Tackle, so let's hope this doesn't do too much. Oh, just barely didn't manage to kill it. Alright, so for you, let's go for our regular Pokeball. Should be more than sufficient for you. And there we go. So that is one new teammate. Has a bit of type redundancy with Rosie, but still a very good Pokemon. It busily flits around here and there. Even if it is frail, it can be a tough foe that uses Mirror Move. So what are we gonna call our girl here? Well, there is a Spearow that I had in one of my previous Nuzlocke runs. Specifically a Heart Gold Nuzlocke that I had. So we're gonna call you Zoe. Alright, you are quiet. It's not the best nature for you, but still pretty good. So I'm hoping to see some good use from you in this run if we decide to use you over Rosie. Obviously, Rosie has a bit of an advantage here, but just filling up our team here is going to be pretty good. Let's get you healed up, and then we'll get introduced to our new flying friend. Alright, you are all healed up now. Alright, so let's get to know Zoe a little bit better. Ah, man, that was certainly something. You guys are pretty powerful. Well, we did manage to get a gym badge at the Pewter Gym. Oh, nice. So, I guess now that I'm on your team, you're going to be using me in battle, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Awesome! I'm very happy to be on board with this. Alright, that sounds pretty good. Alright, what's our current situation with money here? Just want to check. We got a decent amount of money. I don't think we're gonna need any more Pokeballs for the next area we're coming up on. Just want to make sure we have a good amount of supplies. We'll buy one more Paralyze Heal, and I think that'll do it. Alright, so now that we got ourselves our bird, it's time to move on. And obviously, one thing I could do is train Zoe up on some of the bug Pokemon in the forest. But I feel like it would be a better use of our time just to move forward. Besides, we can train her up on the way to the next area. Eek! Did you touch me? I am so sorry, Robin. Alright, so got ourselves a level 14 Jigglypuff. So that thing looks kind of intimidating, but honestly, it's not too bad. Jigglypuff is more of a tanky Pokemon. It has a lot of HP, but the rest of its stats really aren't all that bad. So Khalifa can just take you out in one hit, because that's what Khalifa does. That's it? Yep, that's all we need to do for that battle. It's pretty good there. So another good tactic just for raising up your Pokemon, especially the lower level ones, is to do switch training. So just having the weak Pokemon the lead of a battle, and then swapping them out for a stronger one to be able to finish the fight. It's a pretty good way of getting them trained up. Whew, better take a rest. Tell them Cerulean takes a lot out of you. So we're still on Route 3 here, so no new encounters. If we head up here, we're now on Route 4. Oh wow, that's the Boulder Badge. You got it from Brock, didn't you? Brock is cool. He's not just tough. People like and respect him. I want to become a gym leader like him. Well, it's certainly good to have ambitions, my guy. Ouch! I tripped over a rocky Pokemon, Geodude. Oh, that must be unfortunate. For the Geodude. Also, didn't really mention here, but sometimes you can see these little dark patches of grass here. If you examine them, you can find special items called berries. Now, berries are pretty special in that they are items that a Pokemon can hold, and then when they reach a certain point in a battle, they will use them automatically. Just to show them off here in our berry pouch. So an Oranberry can restore a Pokemon by 10 HP, and then a Persimberry can heal them from confusion, which is something we'll obviously get into in a little bit, but for now we don't need to worry about that. So yeah, berries are pretty difficult to come across here in the Kanto region. I believe they do respawn after a couple of days, but yeah, it can be a little tricky to accumulate a good amount compared to Ruby and Sapphire, where you can just grow them yourself. Hello there, sweetie pie, have I got a deal just for you? Oh man, do not call me that. I'll let you have a secret Pokemon, a Magikarp for just $500. So, you'll buy it, am I right? So, I am going to decline this. But if anyone is looking to do a Nuzlocke run and wants an easy win button, you'll probably want to buy that Magikarp. Because, oh boy, that thing is certainly something. Team Rocket attacks Cerulean citizens. Not a day goes by without Team Rocket being in the news. Sometimes you'll have too many Pokemon with you to add anymore. In that case, just store some using any PC. Yeah, that's certainly what we did with Barbie. But yeah, the Magikarp you get here in this Pokemon Center. It's the earliest point you're able to get Magikarp. You will have to wait a while to be able to catch one in the wild. But buying one here could be pretty useful for you and your team. Now, the obvious caveat with picking up Magikarp here is that you're going to have to baby it for like 15 levels, because it does not learn any good attacks for a long time.
But when you manage to get it up to level 20, it will evolve into an amazing Pokemon called Gyarados, which is incredibly useful in Nuzlocke runs because of its really high stats. Definitely recommend picking them up if you want an easy time to complete your Nuzlocke challenge. But for me, we're just going to move on without talking to him and buying the Magikarp. So now it's time for Mount Moon, our second main dungeon of this area. And we pick up a TM for Bullet Seed. So that could be useful on Bulbo, but yeah, it's an attack that will hit 2 to 5 times depending on the turn it's used. And has a base power of 10. So the attack can be as weak as only 20 base power or as strong as 50 base power. It'd certainly be a good move on Bulbo, but he has Vine Whip, and I don't see much reason to teach him anything else at the moment. Maybe later on we could teach it to him, but we don't need to worry about it too much. So yeah, Mount Moon here is an example of a cave. These are special dungeons where they feature no grass, so just walking around here will trigger a battle against a wild Pokemon. Like this Geodude! Alright, that's actually a pretty good find here. Alright, what do we want to do? So got an idea on what I want to do for weakening this lady. Also, yeah, we are just encountering all the girls here. Bulbo is the only boy that we currently have in our team. Which, obviously, because the starter Pokemon have a gender ratio that's weighed more in favor of the males compared to the females. So I just find this pretty funny that we have such a girl-focused team. Alright, so this Geodude here could be a really good team member. So Rock-type Pokemon typically have high physical attack and defense, and Geodude is no exception. It is really strong. It has some glaring weaknesses, obviously, so you definitely want to watch out for any grass or water-type Pokemon when you're trading these things. But they are still really good, especially because Rock is going to be resistant to normal types, which we're going to see a lot of here in this region. Alright, so we softened you up a bit, so let's go for the Pokeball. Alright, we managed to get ourselves a Geodude. So this could be a very good addition to our party, depending on how things go here. So Geodude, the rock Pokemon. Its round form makes it easy to pick up. Some people have used them to hurl it at each other in a snowball fight. God, that sounds like it would hurt like hell. Alright, so for you, there is a Geodude that I previously used in one of my Nuzlocke runs. And I feel it'd be nice to name you after her. So we're gonna call you Wilma. After the Geodude I had back in my Emerald Nuzlocke, which you can actually check out on my DeviantArt account. Hint, hint. It's got a Paralyze heal over here. So I'll head to the center to heal up Wilma in just a bit. Suspicious men are in the cave. What about you? I don't know, do I look suspicious to you? Alright, so Kent over here has got himself some more bug types. What else is new? Okay, Zoe. You're still on the weak side here as much as I would love to see you take on a Weedle by yourself. Actually, Wilma would be a good contender for that Rock Tomb team we have. Let's just have Rosie deal with this for now. But we'll definitely want to try to use our other Pokemon in a bit. The Spearow can be pretty good because it's a good attacker. And then obviously Geodude's going to be useful because it is really defensive. It's going to be really good in a lot of battles. In fact, I can think of one particular boss fight coming up where Geodude's going to be really, really good at. But we'll save talking about that until later. Alright, next up is Kakuna. Okay, this one is pretty much a free experience Pokemon since this thing can't attack. Alright, so Zoe, you're just gonna go on the offensive and take this Cocoon out. Alright, I'll try to do my best. See, I'm trying to think of other tips that I could give for anyone just starting out one of these challenge runs. I guess I could say don't be too afraid of failure. Not everyone's first run is going to go well. I've certainly had a few screw-ups in a lot of my earlier playthroughs, and even some of my more recent ones. But don't get too broken up about it. Obviously, these challenges are meant to be challenging, but they're also supposed to be fun and a way to experience these Pokemon games in a new way. So even a defeat can lead to a pretty nice moment, you know? Like just getting to see a lot of different stories unfold with the Pokemon that you are catching. Alright, speaking of interesting things here, we got ourselves Zubat. It's another Pokemon we could have caught in this area. This one's actually pretty good for Nuzlocke runs. It's a poison flying type, which is a pretty good defensive typing. Now you do need to baby this thing a bit, because it typically gets some very low damage attacks until it's much higher level. But once you do train it up, this thing is really good. I love the Zubat family so much. They're actually some of my most used Pokemon in all of my different Nuzlocke runs, and just Pokemon games in general. They are so good. Alright, let's get ourselves healed up, and we should be good to begin exploring Mount Moon. Because yeah, this area is gonna be a lengthy place to explore. It's also kind of a labyrinth, so we need to watch out for that too. Alright, Wilma, let's look at your oh, you're modest! So that is pretty much one of the worst natures we could have on a Geodude. That lowers physical attack and raises special attack. That is so bad for you. Now you have Rockhead, so that's still a decent... that is a decent thing for you, but... yeah, that is a little disappointing. But rock types are kind of hard to come by here, so... just to aid you in battle, we're going to be teaching you Rock Tomb. There we go. So now you got a rock attack to deal some more damage with. Yeah, that's another thing to note about battling with Pokemon. So there is a thing called the same type attack bonus, or stab. Basically, if a Pokemon uses the same type of attack that the Pokemon itself is the type of, that attack receives a 1.5 boost to its attack damage. So obviously, that is real good. Definitely make sure your Pokemon have at least one stab attack, and they will be doing well in battle. Anyway, with that taken care of, it's time that we get a move on, and maybe learn a bit about our buddy Wilma as well. But we know what we're going to see over here. What? I'm waiting for my friends to find me here. So yeah, Mount Moon is definitely going to be a very long place for us to explore. Last Iris here. Oh, you're not the Iris from the Unova region. Alright, she's got a Clefairy. And luckily, this is the generation well before they established Fairy-type Pokemon. So Khalifa is just going to take you out with Karate Chop. Also very nice that Khalifa has the Vital Spirit ability, as that prevents Clefairy from being able to put her to sleep using Sing. So we're going to be pretty good here. Just take that thing out. So yeah, all throughout this place, we're definitely going to want to try to train up our weaker Pokemon, as well as just make sure all of our Pokemon in general are getting some good levels. Like, before you leave this place, it's a good idea to make sure that your starter Pokemon is evolved, which Bulbo should be in a couple levels. But yeah, we definitely got a lot to do in this area. Let's got ourselves a Zubat. This should be a pretty easy battle for Wilma. Well, it's about time to finally get some action.
Alright, Wilma, let's go for Rock Tomb. Alright, baby. Ow. How dare you make me flinch? Get your ass in the ground. And that is how it's done. Alright, good work, Wilma. So it will definitely be nice to train you up. So I can definitely see Geodude here being pretty useful to us. Even with that nature, which is honestly really bad for you. But yeah, Mount Moon definitely has a lot for us to see. You want to explore as much of this place as you can and try to get everything you can. You can also find Paris down here. So that is a bug grass type Pokemon. Actually pretty good to train using Zoe. Definitely some easy experience here. Yeah, Paris is not much to say about. It's more of an attacker that also specializes in inflicting statuses. Pretty much has access to all of the different status ailments, namely poison, sleep, and paralysis. So a nice little quirk about the Paris line is that they actually have the ability to learn the attack called Spore, which is a 100% sleep attack. You definitely want that if you are raising up a Paris. We, Team Rocket, are Pokemon gangsters. We strike fear with our strength. Alright, so at long last, we're finally getting to meet the main antagonist group of this game, Team Rocket. These guys are Pokemon-focused criminals, specializing in just any crimes that involve Pokemon, like stealing rare Pokemon that they feel would be worth a lot, as well as other underhanded stuff. We'll definitely be seeing a lot more of these guys as we go through this game, and trust me, they are going to be a pain every time we come across them. Still a good opportunity to get some experience, though. Oh man, I thought we kicked these guys' asses before. Yeah, but they're back. Fine, I guess we'll just take care of them again. Oh, god damn. Yeah, a quick attack from that thing is obviously going to hurt. Whiskers has quick attacks. We can easily finish this thing with her. I'll do my best. Now. Yeah, definitely want to watch out because these guys pack a lot of Rattata on their team. And as I clearly demonstrated, Rattata can be deceptively strong. Last Pokemon is Zubat. This should be no trouble for us. Very good! Even getting a critical hit. We probably didn't need that because Hyper Fang is so strong, but I appreciate the added help there, Whiskers. Thank you. Darn it all! My associates won't stand for this. So yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of Team Rocket grunts in this area. Also seeing these guys reminded me in another remake of the Generation 1 games, which is... specifically, I'm referring to Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I like the additions they do with Team Rocket in that game. Namely, the fact that Jesse and James are recurring NPCs that you have to fight throughout the game. As well as somebody who was originally introduced in Heart Gold and Soul Silver also appears in that game, which I feel is really cool of tying together the different iterations of Team Rocket throughout the series. Ooh, we found a star piece. So that is a pretty nice item. This is specifically an item that is meant to be sold in a shop. So we'll definitely want to remember that. It's going to give us some pretty good money for what we are going to need to spend later on. So I don't think there's anything else we need to worry about on this floor, so we can keep moving. While we're also in this area, I'm also on the lookout for a certain thing that might happen in this playthrough. Because
Back when I was streaming on Twitch, I definitely wanted to see if, throughout our Pokemon playthroughs, if we would be able to capture a shiny Pokemon, as those would obviously be really fun to have. Sadly, I never did manage to get one, but, you know, it'd be very nice if we were to be blessed during this stream series. But, like, it's a very rare chance that we'll actually be able to see a shiny. Like, they are less than a 1 in 8,000 chance of these things actually appearing. So, obviously, we're going to have a very rough time trying to come across those. But if it manages to bless our run with a shiny, that would be very nice. Obviously, that'd be very cool to see as our inaugural Pokemon stream on this channel. I would definitely appreciate that. But with that said, there was at least one shiny that I did manage to acquire during our Pokemon streams. Sadly, I encountered it while I was doing training off-screen, so I wasn't able to catch it during the actual streams. But, you know, I at least managed to find one, so that's nice. But yeah, sometime we will find a shiny Pokemon live. I promise you that we will eventually get one. I don't care if we have to keep playing these games until Generation 9 or 10 or a billion. We will get one. Alright, managed to get Wilma to level 10. Very nice to be training up her team here. Considering what we'll probably see here, I'm thinking... yeah, we'll keep Wilma in the lead here while we take care of this. Another thing I want to know while you're exploring these areas, you can see that some of the NPCs in this area, instead of looking at a fixed area, they will turn to look at a variety of different areas to try and catch you off guard and battle you. If you are running, those trainers will hear your footsteps and turn in the direction you are running, so they can easily be able to catch you there. So it's kind of a thing in speedruns to be very careful around these trainers, because if they catch you and you're challenged to a battle, that can really affect your run time. So yeah, a lot of streamers who are specializing in speedruns hate these type of trainers. But you know, it's not bad for us because we don't have to worry about trying to play these games as fast as possible. We're just here to have a fun time and also pray that our Pokemon don't faint. But, you know, that's just the name of the game here. Totally didn't talk about this guy's team. He had 2 electric-type Pokemon, one of which is an electric steel-type. Yeah, we hadn't encountered any steel-type Pokemon yet in this game, but they're pretty cool. There's only a few we can actually catch in this game, but trust me, they'll be pretty useful to us later on, should we manage to catch one later. So over here we can get a rare candy. So that is a very nice item. So rare candy here is an item that will immediately raise the level of a Pokemon by 1. This can definitely help with just increasing the level of a Pokemon you want to get strong without having to worry about grinding. But yeah, I obviously recommend holding off on using rare candies until pretty much the end of the game, for reasons that will become very apparent. But trust me, rare candies are pretty good. You need to go for this cave to get to Cerulean City. In fact, there's a lot of people who typically stream Nuzlocke runs where they will hack the game so that they give them an infinite amount of rare candies, just so they can quickly level up their Pokemon without having to grind. But I want this stream to be as authentic as possible, so we are not going to be hacking in any extra rare candies. We're just going to have the amount that we find naturally in the game, and if we want a Pokemon to get high level, we actually have to train them ourselves. So that seems like a pretty good compromise there, just to keep this run feeling as authentic as possible. But anyway, we got ourselves some more bug trainers in this area to deal with. We managed to learn Rock Throw, which is pretty much the same as Rock Tomb, except it's a little more accurate, but it doesn't have the speed drop that it normally gives you. So yeah, that's something else we need to bear in mind. But still, pretty good damage from Wilma because she's so strong. Damn right I'm strong! Of course, Wilma, I know all about how powerful you were. You were an integral member of my Pokemon Emerald Nuzlocke team. Even though I eventually had to remove you from the party because there is so much water in the Hoenn region. But, you know, you were a good party member throughout that run. I'm good. Very happy to hear that. Alright, managed to get a few levels on Wilma in that battle. That is very nice. Definitely see your Pokemon. It's honestly not that bad to train up your Pokemon just on the normal trainers you encounter throughout the game. Just if you remember to only have them battle Pokemon that you definitely know they'll have an easy time with. Then, depending on the Pokemon selection, you could easily handle even a higher level opponent using a Pokemon that is lower level if they have a good type matchup with it. So definitely consider that when you're doing these runs. Alright, you can definitely see Zoe is very much a powerhouse here. Yeah, Spearow are typically pretty good because they have a lot of power and they are very fast as well. I've definitely used a lot of Spearow in a lot of my previous Nuzlocke runs. And even back in my original blue one, a Fearow was one of my main battling Pokemon. Man, he was just really good. Not enough to beat the final boss of the game, but, you know, he was still good. Alright, so managed to pick up an escape rope there. So, if we're in a situation where we really quickly need to get back to the Pokemon Center, we can use that. But I'm not too worried at this point. The team is looking pretty good. Alright, the Zubat just really doesn't know type matchups, because using a ghost attack on a normal type isn't gonna work, my dude. And what do we have over here? Hi, I'm excavating for fossils here under Mount Moon. Sometimes Brock Pewter Gym lends me a hand. Oh, that's very nice of him. So giving some more lore about Brock's role here in this world. So what I really like about the more recent games is they really go into detail about the different characters and what their roles are in this world. Like, pretty much every gym leader in the more modern games has an actual occupation that they do outside of just being an opponent for you to battle at a certain point in the story. So they feel a lot more like actually developed characters rather than roadblocks, which I obviously really appreciate as a longtime fan of this series and someone who really likes narrative-driven games. Wow, it's way bigger in here than I thought. That is definitely an understatement. And the dungeons are only gonna get bigger from here, Miriam. So she's got herself Oddish! This is one of my favorite grass-type Pokemon. It's just so cute! But yeah, Oddish is pretty much like Bulbasaur, except this thing is definitely a more of a strategic Pokemon rather than a outright offensive powerhouse. Gets access to a lot of different status-affecting moves that can be really helpful. And it's still a pretty decent battler. It's kind of hard to be able to get it with some good grass and poison type attacks, depending on where it is in its evolution line. And we also have Bellsprout, another grass and poison type Pokemon similar to Oddish. Yeah, I don't know why they did this, but like most of the grass-type Pokemon we encounter in this region are also poison types. Like, even the grass-type starter Pokemon is also poison. If there is one nitpick I definitely have with the Generation 1 games, is that there are just so many Poison-type Pokemon that a lot of them feel very redundant compared to some of the others. I still like a good deal of the Poison-type Pokemon, you know, the ones that aren't Grimer, but, you know, that's just the way things are. So we can just ignore this Team Rocket Grunt to grab TM46. So that is a fairly unique attack. So this move is Thief. It's a Dark-type attack, which is a type we're not really going to see much of in this game. But it has a really cool added effect where it's able to steal items from Pokemon, which can be really useful if you're looking to track down a certain item for your team. We're pulling a big job here. Get lost, kid! And a lot of wild Pokemon will typically be holding berries. So a good way to acquire berries is using that item in order to take it. I mean, using that move in order to take it. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider. Also, it's one of the few Dark-type attacks we're actually able to teach our Pokemon, which can be useful against a very specific type of Pokemon we'll be encountering later on. Well, 2 specific types that we'll be seeing later. They kind of go hand in hand when it comes to weaknesses. Alright, got Zoe up to level 12, so that's very good. Definitely raising up our Pokemon here to get them stronger. Alright, Ekans is going to lower our power here, so let's use Leer in order to neutralize the weakness it put us through. Alright, it's lowering our defense, but we should still be good. We're higher level than it. Yeah! That was a very lucky critical. Thank you, Zoe. No problem. So, you are good. Better than you, clearly. If you find a fossil, give it to me and scram! I don't want to. Alright, how about for this next one? Let's switch in Wilma. She could use a bit more experience here. So looking at what we have here. Yep, you need less experience than Zoe for this next level up. So it's going to be pretty interesting just deciding which one of our Pokemon are going to be taking the leads in some of these battles. And also deciding which Pokemon we're going to be using in general once we get to some of the later areas and manage to get some pretty nice captures. But anyway, we picked up another good item here, which is Ether. So this item can restore the power points of your Pokemon. So if one of its attacks manages to run out of power points, like, say, Wilma's Rock Tomb, and we find ourselves in a situation where we need Rock Tomb for a certain opponent, then using an Ether to replenish those power points would definitely be very handy. However, I do not recommend using the power point restoring items until we're at the end game, because of a very specific reason. We'll go into that much later. Anyway, we got ourselves youngster Josh. This guy's got himself a team of rats. This should be a pretty easy battle for Wilma since she naturally resists normal types. Not so nice that you're going to be using Tail Whip to lower our defense, but, you know, go off, I guess. Alright, that did pretty good. Let's go for a Rock Throw, because it's more accurate. Just want to make sure we have a good time in these battles here. Alright, we got ourselves a pretty pointless critical hit, but you know, that's fine. Next up is a Zubat. Alright, Wilma should be able to handle this one. Not if it flinches me, goddammit! Also, now that we are using a Geodude in this run, there's also something else I wanted to address in this playthrough. Now, normally the Geodude line is kind of interesting to use in these challenge runs, depending on the hardware you're using for one specific reason. And that is sometimes based on the hardware you're using when playing these games. Sometimes you're not able to access certain features, like, say, trading Pokemon. And there's certain Pokemon in the game that, in order to In order to unlock their final form, you do need to trade them with another player in order to unlock that form for them. However, we're not going to need to worry about that Wilma for a reason that will become evident in a little bit. Just bear with me, it's going to take a while for this to become relevant, but trust me when I say Wilma will get her time to shine and will be able to reach her final form. It's just going to take a while, you know? Also just want to say that because, yeah, a lot of my previous Pokemon streams back when I was playing these games on Twitch, I definitely had to make it a very important thing to do that I wasn't planning on using any Pokemon that are required to trade to evolve, specifically because I wouldn't be able to easily access those evolutions for those Pokemon. However, that will not be the case for this game. So I wanted to make sure that our Pokemon would be able to achieve their final forms. Should we actually come across the Pokemon that are able to evolve by trade. So managed to take care of things so that we'll be able to have that available to us. So take a while to become really relevant, but just trust me on that.
Whoa, you shocked me! No, you're just a kid.
Over here we got ourselves a hiker. So these guys will typically use very strong and sturdy Pokemon. Like, they'll typically use rock types, but they can also use some fighting type Pokemon as well. Speaking of which, let's get Khalifa some action here. I feel like Khalifa will want to redeem herself after how things went in the last gym.
Of course I do! Oh, come on, is that all? I could do better than this.
Need to get stronger. For Kale, for Kaba, and everyone else. Alright, just got ourselves some more rock-type Pokemon here. Alright, you actually managed to take that one in one hit. Yeah! Definitely going to be pretty useful for this team. And we got ourselves an Onix. Alright, do you want to go for the 60 base power or to go for low kick, since Onix is obviously heavier? Let's go for low kick. Alright! Yep, just one-shots that thing. Yeah, Onix, despite its intimidating appearance, really isn't all that strong. Like, its best stats are defense and speed of all things. It's one of the very few rock-type Pokemon that is actually very fast. And yeah, the thing has some pretty glaring weaknesses, as you would expect, due to being a rock-ground type Pokemon. And a lot of people tend to just joke about the fact that Onix has really low physical attack compared to a lot of other Pokemon that normally also have a low physical attack but are still stronger than Onix. I mean, it's not all bad. I mean, later on, Onix eventually got a pretty cool evolution, but I don't know if we'll be able to access that one during our main run here. But, you know, if we're able to encounter an Onix as a catchable Pokemon, we'll definitely try to get it, even if it's not going to be all that useful to us. But, you know, still a nice little option for us. Alright, I am very excited to see where things go with Zoe here. It's got Fury Attack. That is quite good for us. Well, in a few ways. So this is a normal type attack that is also a multi-hit attack. So it's able to do 15 hits up to 2 to 5 times per turn. However, that accuracy is really bad. and with a chance of only being able to attack 2 times. Yeah, I think Peck is generally the better move to use on Zoe. Very sorry to say that, but that's just the way things are. Also, let us switch Wilma into the lead, since you're going to level up faster than Zoe here. Typically, whenever I play these games... Ooh, Moonstone. That's good. Typically, when I play these games, I like to have the lowest level Pokemon in the lead of my party. And it also helps to have whichever Pokemon is going to be the one that is going to level up the fastest based on how much experience they currently have. So that's always a nice tip that I like to use whenever I am playing these games. So to go into that item we just picked up, the Moonstone is a very special type of item in that it's an item that is able to evolve specific species of Pokemon. So the Pokemon you're able to evolve with the Moonstone are Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Nidorino, and Nidorina. Sadly, at this point, we are unable to obtain those Pokemon, but there is an area later on where we should be able to encounter some more Moonstone evolutions. So if we're lucky enough to run into them, we'll definitely want to be on the lookout. So I am a little sad that I wasn't able to acquire one of the Nidoran, as those Pokemon can actually be found on Route 3. And they are quite good. They level up and evolve pretty quickly. And when they're in their... once they are ready for their final form, you just need to use a Moonstone and they can instantly get in their final form. So you can have a fully evolved Pokemon really early in the game. And those stats that they have really make them very useful here. They're probably not going to be end-game useful Pokemon, but they're still really good early game. And they can also learn a wide variety of different TMs that can really allow them to excel in battle. So that's obviously one reason to pick using those Pokemon. They're definitely ones I can recommend. Very sad I wasn't able to acquire one here, because I do really like the Nidoran Pokemon. Alright, we got another item up here. So that is a Revive. Ooh. That's a little awkward. So Revives are typically an item when you use on a fainted Pokemon, will restore that Pokemon by 50% of its health. However, this is a Nuzlocke run. And as the Nuzlocke rules clearly state, once a Pokemon reaches 0 hit points, it's considered dead and can no longer be used. Now, there are some people, especially those who are just starting out with a challenge, who tend to have a rule stating that if they do manage to find Revives, then they can use that to revive a Pokemon that ends up dead. We are not going to be using that run. So I just want to make this just abundantly clear. If a Pokemon does die on this team, it is gone for good. We cannot use them anymore. Just want to make that perfectly clear. Little kids shouldn't be messing around with grown-ups. It could be bad news. Boy, you're right about that, buddy. So we've just got a few more Team Rocket guys to deal with on our way out of here. Ooh, this guy could be a bit nasty, because that Rattata is high enough level to have Hyper Fang. Luckily, we have Wilma, and she's able to resist everything this thing can do to her. Yeah, just go ahead and use Tail Whip. There is nothing you can do to Wilma. Even if you lower my defense, Wilma's defense is just so high that it doesn't really matter how much this Rattata is lowering. You are not getting past her defense. Damn! That's a good critical hit. Alright, then what else do we got here? Sandshrew. Alright, so we want to switch over to Bulbo to handle you. Oh, come on. That is just... Alright.
We had a little bit of a scare there, but everything worked out. Bulbo's fine.
Yeah, I'll be fine when this guy is dead.
Bulbo, we do not kill. Alright, let's get you healed up, buddy. So you took a big hit there. Pokemon lived here long before people came. Yeah, that is certainly accurate. You know, I'm kind of surprised we haven't actually run into Clefairy at this point. Like, it's a very rare Pokemon in this area, but still, it's very nice to run into one. And I can't really remember if I've ever used Clefairy during a Nuzlocke run. I've definitely used them in a couple of my normal playthroughs, but yeah, I can't seem to recall. I have used Jigglypuff a few times. Specifically one time in an Alpha Sapphire Nuzlocke, because that Wigglytuff I had was actually pretty darn good, since she had the typing of normal Fairy, since that was a Generation 6 game, and she also had the ability Competitive, which made it so that if the opponent, I forget if my Pokemon was affected negatively by a stat, or if the opponent boosted one of their stats, but she would receive a special attack buff depending on how stats were changed in a battle, and that made her really good in a lot of situations. So yeah, very cool to see this one Pokemon that are typically seen as not that good, just under the right circumstances actually being a pretty powerful force. And, you know, just fairy Pokemon in general in the newer games tend to be really good, for obvious reasons. Really? We took one step and we got an encounter there. Fine. We only got so many of these battles left to do. Okay, so that was the last peck that Zoe has. So after this, there is... So we're just gonna have to rely on Fury Attack with Zoe from here on out. Let's just see the way the dice roll. Alright, we're able to handle the Zubat, regardless of how the dice rolled. So that's good. Just want to check if there's any items in these craters, because typically they do hide things here. We, Team Rocket, shall find the fossils. Reviving Pokemon from them will earn us huge riches. Yeah, we certainly don't want these guys to get their hands on any fossils. They can end up with a power of anarchy or democracy with them. Okay, that's a Rattata, so we're going to switch over to Wilma. Yeah, it's definitely something we're going to see in this run compared to some of my other Pokemon playthroughs, is that I'm definitely going to try to take as few risks as possible in this run. Especially some of my older ones, especially from my most recent playthrough when I was streaming on Twitch was Black, and that was a pretty exciting run with a lot of very cool battles. Well, yeah, want to make sure we're not taking a lot of risks here. Making sure we have the right Pokemon for whatever situation we find ourselves in. Just to make sure we are properly prepared for these fights. Okay, Wilma can handle the Zubat too. I am very impressed with how well even the newer members of this team have managed to catch up with the rest of the party. Especially Wilma. She's going to be really integral to some of our strategies going forward. Ugh, now I'm mad! I'm mad, I'm Dad! Sorry, I had to. Okay, we got a few Pokemon at 14. And looks like Bulbo is the closest to a level up here, so you can go in the front. Yeah, it's about time.
Feel like I haven't gotten much action in this stream.
You beat Brock's Onix.
Yeah, that was about it.
Don't be such a baby. Not too worried about Zubat here. You don't have any flying attacks. You can go for the tackle.
Fine.
guess now that we have kind of a break here, I just want to briefly mention that just what's been going on very recently. It's like, ooh, Bulbo is learning Poison Powder. It's that gonna be pretty good for you, being able to just poison enemies. Which between that and Leech Seed is gonna make you really good at taking out some of the tougher Pokemon. Or we could go for Sleep Powder. So typically I tend to prefer Sleep Powder as it's really good for being able to shut down an opponent and they just give you a couple of free turns. Yeah, between these options, I feel like Sleep is much more useful in a Nuzlocke run. It's really good for shutting down opponents. But you know, Poison Powder is also pretty good. So yeah, we're definitely going to see the more tactical side to Bulbo in a bit with the next couple of sessions. Trust me, he's going to be real good for what's in store. Alright, who's going to level up next? Looks like Whiskers. Okay, you can go into the lead now.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Alright, guess I'm good free to talk about this now. But yeah, I've mostly been spending my day off here just focusing on playing some more Xenoblade Chronicles X, having a pretty good time with the game so far. Definitely making some good progress, though we're still really early into the game. But I managed to get done a pretty interesting quest, which involves us interacting with a character called the Murderess. And she's actually one of the playable characters you're able to have join your party. And yeah, just is a pretty fun having this clearly evil person among your team of heroes. I mean, I don't really know her whole story, so I don't know if I can truly call her evil, but she definitely does some pretty despicable things. She's certainly not a good person. At least from what I can tell. But anyway, we got ourselves a pretty fearsome fight here with this super nerd. Got himself a Grimer here. As you can tell, this thing is a poison-type Pokemon. It's a pretty defensive one. Its main shtick is going to be trying to poison your Pokemon so that it will just take a lot of damage over time. But it's no trouble for us. The next up is Coughing. Pretty similar to Grimer, this is a poison-type Pokemon. Pretty defensive, and it will try to poison your Pokemon any chance it can get. So definitely watch out for that. There's also another thing that Coughing can get later on when they're higher level that's also really nasty, but we don't have to worry about that yet. And next up is Voltorb. Okay, I'm gonna switch you out because Whiskers is a little low in terms of health right now. Yeah, we'll have Wilma take care of this one. Voltorb, of course, is an electric-type Pokemon, and a very fast one. It's easily one of the fastest Pokemon in the Kanto region. So if you're just looking for a very speedy attacker, this one's real good. Do have to note that it has low HP and defenses, so that's definitely something to watch out about. But yeah, it can be a pretty reliable party member. In fact, I did use a Voltorb back in my original Blue Nuzlocke, and it was a very good party member for most of the run. Okay, I'll share. So yep, we had to beat this nerd in order to acquire a fossil. We'll each take a fossil, no being greedy. Alright, so we have our choice of one of two fossil options here, which will eventually give us a Pokemon down the line that can be useful. We can get either a Helix fossil or a Dome fossil. The Helix fossil can be revived into a Pokemon called Ammonite, and the Dome fossil can be revived into a Pokemon called Kabuto. Personally, I'm going to take the Helix fossil. And no, not because of the reason you think. It's just that I feel in the Generation free games that Ammonite is kind of the better of the two options here. So either one of these options you get, you'll have to wait a while to be able to truly use them, but they can be some pretty handy team members. So Ammonite is a very defensive special attacker, while Kabuto is more of an offensive physical attacker, and they're both rock-water type Pokemon. And between those type options, I kind of feel like water is a bit better than rock offensively for these guys, just based on the moves they get and their stat spreads. So because of that, I generally consider in these games that Ammonite is a little bit better than Kabuto. But only by a little bit. Kabuto is still a really strong Pokemon when you get it trained up, and it can really be a really good team member. But yeah, I just feel that Ammonite is just a tiny bit better. There's also some other problems with using the fossil Pokemon in this game, but we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, we finally out of Mount Moon, and we are here in Route 4. This area has quite a bit for us to see before we get going to the next destination here.
A punch of roaring ferocity, packed with destructive power. When the chips are down, Mega Punch is the ultimate attack. You agree, yes? Now, let me teach it to your Pokemon.
So this is an example of a move tutor. They are specific NPCs you can encounter in the world that can teach your Pokemon very specific moves. So based on our options here, I think we're going to teach Mega Punch to Wilma, just for the time being. Because look at this thing. We got an 80 base power normal type attack. That is easily better than Tackle. So might as well teach that to her. Alright, so now you can punch good.
Now we're comrades in the way of punching. You should go before you're seen by the misguided fool who trains only his silly kicking over there. A kick of brutal ferocity, packed with destructive power. When you get right down to it, Mega Kick is the ultimate attack. Don't you agree? Okay, I'll teach it to your Pokemon.
And we're also able to learn Mega Kick. This one is pretty much like Mega Punch, except it's about kicks. So obviously you need a Pokemon with strong legs to be able to use this one. And I thought that it would be a good idea to teach this to Khalifa. Sadly, this thing is very inaccurate, but it is really strong, so we're going to forget Scratch for that. And just get ourselves some nice attacks on our Pokemon.
Now we're soulmates in the way of kicking. You should run before you're seen by the deluded nitwit who trains only simple punching over there.
God, I love these guys and how they have their own little rivalry going on. It's a fun little bit of extra story we have going on. Yeah, we don't have much else to see on this route. So we're going to pick up TM5 War. So that is a move that can switch the Pokemon that the opponent is currently using. And if you're in a wild battle, then that attack will just make the battle end, as it will scare away the wild Pokemon. But we got one more patch of grass before we enter the next town, so let's see what we can get. I mean, of available options here, there's only one that I can reasonably see us getting here. And depending on which Pokemon this should be interesting for a number of reasons. We'll just see how it goes. For now, let's just look around here and see what we get. For the record, you're probably noticing that I am knocking out any Pokemon that I've already caught. That's because this run is also using what is known as a Duplicate's Clause, which is a specific type of Nuzlocke rule that most people associate as one of the main rules. And pretty much Duplicate Clause means that you can ignore any Pokemon that's the first encounter on a route that you already caught. So because we already have a Spearow, any other Spearow that we encounter on later routes is not counted as our first encounter. So we're just able to freely knock out any Pokemon that isn't one we have previously obtained. Okay, this is getting ridiculous here. So many Pokemon we have already seen. I know there is one Pokemon we can find in this area. There is at least one new thing we can get here. I'm very interested to see if we can get it to appear. Sure, you can go from Mega Punch to finish you. Yeah, Wilma's pretty good just to face anything here, since she only really has to worry about water and grass type attacks at this point, and those are pretty uncommon. Yeah, she's doing pretty well here. Oh, come on. I saw the purple sprite, and I thought it was the Pokemon that I was looking for, but it wasn't. Yeah, we're gonna have to be a little patient here, just trying to see what we can do. I guess I can talk about some other stuff that's been going on. So work pretty recently has been alright. So I haven't had too many busy days, but later this week I do have quite a bit of time that I need to spend at work. So yeah, it's gonna be a little while before the next stream, but that's fine by me, because it gives me more time to prepare for the next streams we're going to be doing. And yeah, work has just been pretty good so far. Just haven't had to deal with, like, any bad customers recently. Things have been pretty nice. And last couple of days, I've definitely been getting into a lot of different things that I've wanted to watch over on YouTube and on Twitch. For example, if anyone follows the channel Lucagen, she's recently been playing through a game called Ghost Trick, which is just such a fascinating game to me, and it's one I definitely wanted to get into myself and would love to stream at some point. But at this point, you know, I've like seen most of the game, so it's probably gonna be a while before we actually stream that here, because I want to give it some time for me not to be able to readily know the solutions to all the puzzles when we eventually get around to playing it for the channel. But yeah, it's definitely a game I want to get into just because it was a really fascinating concept of just being able to play as a ghost and being able to manipulate objects in order to solve puzzles. It's a really cool time. So yeah, we're going to take a break just so we can heal up our Pokemon, because they have been hurting from our last couple of adventures here. Yep, we'll see you again too. Alright, back into the grass to see if we can catch this Pokemon we need. Come on, I would really like to see you. I know there is something on this route we can get. I know enough about these games from my multitude of playthroughs that I know there is a Pokemon we can catch on this route that isn't Spearow and Rattata. Alright, we just got to deal with a bunch more of these. Something else that I've been seeing pretty recently is I've been watching the Runaway Guys playthrough of Mario Party 9, now that that is being uploaded to YouTube now. And I just want to say, I'm very thankful that we still have the Runaway Guys active here. Woo! There we go! Is this the Pokemon that I was anticipating to run into? Huzzah!
You have finally graced yourselves in the presence of the most majestic of serpents.
Excuse me?
You are here to witness my magnificent performance here, for I am a master of all performing talents.
Okay.
Man, this snake must have hit its head recently. I do not know what you are referring to, but I am the master showman, the greatest performer in this world. I am majestic.
Yeah, that's fun. Alright, let's put you to sleep so you're gonna be easier to capture here, buddy. Alright, we are gonna take a little bit of damage from that wrap. Oh, you have shed skin. Yeah, I should have seen that coming. So yeah, I would have been more enthusiastic about this Pokemon if we managed to get it with Intimidate, because that's easily the better of the abilities. But yeah, this is not really too fantastic. I mean, don't get me wrong, Ekans is still a perfectly fine Pokemon. It's just not one I typically use, because I feel like there are a lot of Pokemon that kind of outshine in a lot of ways, so I don't typically use this Pokemon over other ones. But I still have a lot of attachment to this Pokemon for one very specific reason that I made very apparent.
Huzzah! You have captured me! I shall now join your band of traveling performers! Man, this guy's really sick, isn't he?
Ekans, the snake Pokemon, very common sight in grassland, etc. It flicks its tongue in and out to sense danger in its surroundings. Alright, so this Pokemon. Alright.
We are going to call you the most majestic of serpents.
So if you're wondering what I'm doing with this whole Pokemon, so over in the Comic Burrow Discord server, we typically will do what's known as a friend lock every now and then. And in one of those friend locks, I was playing on Ekans, who I called Majestic. And his entire character is that he's very much a performer. A very extravagant and flamboyant actor who just loves to be the center of attention. So that's kind of the whole shtick I'm doing with this guy. Sadly, we are probably not going to be using this guy in our party because, well, I just don't feel like he's going to be too useful to us. Especially with a mild nature. That boosts your special attack, but that's not really too good. Plus, you have Shed Skin, which I don't think is as good as Intimidate. So, yeah. That is going to be it for that catch there. But we are not quite done with the amount of Pokemon we can catch in this area. There's still a few more areas we can explore before the next gym. But with that said, we are almost at the 2-hour point. So I feel like now is a good time for us to call this session here. I mean, we did a pretty good job making it through this area, all things considered. But yep, I'll want to spend the next time in between streams making sure our team is all trained up for the next couple of battles. Because trust me, we got a lot of fights coming up, and some of them are going to be pretty challenging. So yep, thank you for joining me in this session. And next time we'll be seeing what we can do around Cerulean City. And hopefully, we will be able to get our next gym badge. So until next time, have a good day, and take care.